Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. It is Tuesday, February 13th, and Joe Biden. Good old Joey. The geriatric, the puppet, the child sniffer, the guy that hits a golf ball backwards, falls up a flight of stairs, looks for dead people in the crowd, converses and speaks with dead people, is still the worst president in American history. Patriots, it's great to be back with you on this fine Tuesday morning. We are still under the weather. This is all a facade. Your boy is dying inside. I am so sick, but instead of coffee today, we're drinking out of the Bald Brad Show mug with a nice throat coat tea. We'll see if we'll make it through today's episode, but we're going to button it up and keep it short and sweet for y'all today with our lead story regarding Joe Biden not willing to take a cognitive exam, a test, during his physical. And we see a lot of this play out during yesterday's White House press briefing, where baffling responses are given once again from the mouthpiece of the leader of the free world, Jean-Pierre, where she has the cojones to tell the American people that Joe Biden does more in 1 hour than a lot of people do in an entire day. Let's hear it.
Thanks, Karine. A new ABC News Ipsos poll shows that 86% of Americans think Biden is too old to serve another term. That is a higher percentage than what we found in a previous poll in September. So clearly polling shows this is a persistent issue. What is the White House strategy to try and change that perception?
So look, we're going to continue to lead on leadership, right? We're going to continue to focus on what this president has been able to get done, what the president has been able to get done on behalf of the American people. And look, I'll quote a little bit of what the First Lady said, I think incredibly well, just a couple days ago. President Biden does more in 1 hour than most people do in a day. His age with experience and expertise is an incredible asset, and he proves it every day. And that's what we believe. We believe.
Folks, come on. Come on. Does anybody with their head on straight think that's legit? Joe Biden is more in an hour than people do in a day. I don't think so. Now, that was from his wife, so clearly she's off her rocker too. So the president's off his rocker. He's clueless. You don't even know where the hell he's at. He's talking to dead people. Jean-Pierre says this guy's sharp as a tack, that she would compare him to anybody out there in the world in terms of stamina. That was what she said. So the president is off his rocker. The press secretary doesn't even have her head on straight. Clearly, Joe Biden's wife, Jill Biden, is just bat bleep crazy too. So like I said, it's just another example of what is the most outlandish thing we can come up with today? And let's make sure we stand on the podium and let millions of people know that. Insane. Does anybody believe that? Let us know in the comment section. Holy Lordy.
Believe that his age and his experience, because he was a senator, because he was obviously vice president, because he has these long, long decades of relationships with leaders, obviously across the globe, and what he's been able to do, that's what we're going to lean into. That's what we're going to speak to. We're going to speak to how he turned the economy back on its feet. We're going to speak to the 14.8 million jobs that he was able to create, how unemployment is at under 4%, how he's able to beat Big Pharma because Medicare can now negotiate and lower costs for the American people. That's what we're going to focus on, and I think that's the most important thing at this moment, at this time, is delivering for the American people and continuing to do that.
And bouncing off of the previous question, the numbers show that President Biden has engaged in about 33 news conferences. Compare that to Obama's 66 and Donald Trump's 52 by this time in their presidencies. Can you explain why the president isn't doing?
So look, yeah, and I hear the question, and I know that folks want to hear you all, and it's important because when you all hear from the president, obviously, so does the American people. So we get the importance of that, and we're always going to try to find ways, obviously outside of press conferences as well, for the president to be out there. And we have found some non-traditional ways. We think it's important to try and meet the American people where they are, and so that is important as well. Whether it's a podcast that's important, or doing certain things that is not the norm. Obviously, the president, I should say, takes your questions when he's on the road as more often than not, and he finds it important to have those conversations when you all are out there with him on the road, taking your questions, and so he does do that. As far as press conferences, we're going to try and make sure when it's the right time for those to happen. Certainly, we will do.
Folks, when it's the right time, meaning when Joey's all doped up on drugs so that he's somewhat coherent to coherently answer a question. That it's all timing, you guys. They're trying to get him on his best day in front of the American people. That's why they plan this stuff out far in advance. They've been asking for 3+ years to get this guy on the podium. They've been asking for long form interviews. They just won't give it to him. So their answer is, well, we're going to find unconventional ways, like unusual ways, kind of to get our message out to the American people. Well, isn't it just kind of within itself unusual, the fact that you're not chauffeuring this guy out in the gurney like you were doing previously, doping him up on whatever the hell you're doping up on so he's somewhat cognitive, somewhat coherent, somewhat engaged? Look, if you're going to say that this guy's, sharp as a tack, that he's all there, his stamina's through the roof, everything's fine, then why are you having to find different ways to communicate with the American people? Like, why is she bringing up podcasts? I don't think I've ever seen Joe Biden on a podcast. I mean, maybe Charlemagne the God's podcast, of which he said, if you ain't voting for me, then you ain't black or something like that. I don't know. It's wild. So here's another reporter questioning her on the economy, but also the more important question is, why can't we talk to the president's doctor? Like, why is he not here on the podium answering questions? Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Shrinkflation and the president's video from this weekend in inflation. So, thanks, Green, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
The president is blaming companies again now, it seems, for inflation. And based on his policies, though, does the president accept any responsibility for where prices are since he came into office?
So a couple of things.
Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. The guy hasn't taken responsibility for anything. He doesn't even take responsibility for crap in his own diaper. It's somebody else's fault. The border's Trump's fault. Inflation is Putin's fault. That's why they call it the Putin price hike, specifically in terms of gas prices. Then it was Xi's fault. It's everybody else's fault for what's going on. The crime is somebody else's fault. The crime is Republicans' fault, like you heard from Whoopi Goldberg of The View. She said that red states see the highest crime. And what they do is manipulate the data because it's the blue cities in those red states that have the highest crime. It's wild how it's constantly everybody else's fault. Joe Biden ain't gonna take the blame for nothing. Are you kidding me?
Look,
He didn't even take the blame for the classified documents that were in his garage at the Biden Penn Center as well, all over the place. Who did he blame it on, folks, that we saw? Who did Joe Biden blame for having classified documents in his own home, in his garage, next to his Corvette, in his diaper? Who did he blame it on? The staffers. He didn't even blame it on himself. He blamed it on freaking other people. His staff is who he blamed it on. Oh, I should have been more engaged. I should have been more involved. I was just told you do more in an hour than anybody does in a day. So how could you not have been more involved?
we understand how grocery prices are a major concern for hardworking families. We get it. We get that there are the prices are still kind of hurting Americans. But what we've seen is that prices have gone down for eggs, for milk, for seafood, and that's important. They're lower than they were a year ago, and we.
Oh, goody, you guys! So you got screwed at the beginning of Joe Biden taking office when everything went through the roof. Gas prices, milk, eggs, bread, cereal, chips, produce. I mean, everything went through the roof. And so she's going to sit there and brag, well, it's down a little bit in a year. I'm still getting shafted. I'm still getting reamed, and I'm supposed to thank you for it being down a tiny bit? How about the fact that it's still up? How about the fact that we all lost thousands of dollars in our retirement because of you, lady? Because of this guy. He's not competent. His head don't worky. There's a lot of ramifications that go into when a president's brain doesn't work, and one of those is us getting reamed from behind, and Democrats want 4 more years of it. We're not going to play the video. I'm too sick for it.
We know that's not enough. And so what the president has continuously done, and you see this in this video that you're speaking of, he's called on large corporations to pass their savings onto hardworking Americans. That's what we're doing. And I think that's important that this president sees that. And then in shrinkflation, for folks who are watching doesn't quite know what that is, what we're seeing is the size of a product gets smaller even as the prices stays the same. And that shouldn't be. And so the president's going to call that. And it's, and what you're seeing, it's giving.
Why shouldn't that be? I'm not saying I'm in favor of shrinkflation. And if anybody's confused by this, because she did a terrible job of really explaining it, it's nice to give an example that isn't abstract. Say we all go to McDonald's, okay? And we get a Big Mac. A Big Mac used to be this size, right? We'll say it was for $5. Well, now you're getting a Big Mac this size for the same price, $5. Now, the thing is that you can't keep passing down expenses of labor and food and all these things onto the consumer. You're trying to find ways to cut corners. So they could have just given you the same size Big Mac and increased the price to $7 or $8 or whatever, or they can give you a Big Mac that's a little bit smaller and keep the price the same, because things are just that bad where you have shrinkflation. So she did a terrible job of explaining it, but either way, something needs to give. Either prices are going to continue to rise, or they're going to cut the cost, or in other words, the size of whatever product or service they're providing. So you're seeing a terrible thing happening right now because the Democrats are the ones leading the brigade, and everything has sucked for the last 3 or 4 years and will continue to suck if this guy's reelected.
Families less for their bang, for their buck, if you think about that. And so the president has said, and I quote, he's tired of seeing the American people being played for suckers, and that is something he's not going to allow. But as it relates to what the president's going to continue to do, he's going to continue to do everything that he can to lower costs for the American people, and you've seen him do that.
And on his,
I just want to point out again, we've been doing this for 3.5 years. Actually, I shouldn't say 3.5 years. We're now 3 years, I think, almost to the day. Okay, I'm thinking we're already way past ahead of where the hell we were. It's almost 3 years to the day that we started this show. Congratulations. Hell yeah. It just hit me right now, folks. There's so much going on. I'm sicky, worky, so much. Look, folks, they've been saying the same thing. The messaging has changed slightly. If you recall, for 2 years straight, the phraseology that was implemented here was, well, we're just in a transition phase. Remember, you guys all remember that? It was talked about by Jen Psaki before Jean-Pierre was hired. I'm going to put that in air quotes because she was diversity hire. She wasn't actually hired because of her skill. She was hired because of her ethnicity. But it was, oh, we're in a transition. And the question was, like, in a transition into what? You've been saying we're transitioning for 2 years now. So I guess now we're done with transitioning. We're just transitioning still into more inflation where we're all getting screwed. That's the messaging. It's crap communication, but we shouldn't expect anything less from this administration, because we can't even get this guy to come on the podium and explain all this. Can you imagine Joe Biden trying to explain shrinkflation? And by the way, any of the reporters in there, and I know, again, folks, we're a small channel. We got a small community. We got the best community. We know that some of them do watch this show. Can somebody, because she's going to sit there and brag about how he's taking questions off the cuff, right? Oh, well, he talks to you guys in the road. He talks to you guys in front of Marine One. He talks to you guys while, blah, blah, blah. You guys, get him to recall something. Ask him a question. When were you senator? When was the first year that you became senator? When were you vice president? Start asking him questions that he has to recall, and I guarantee you it's all going to come out. You know who you are, folks, reporters. You know who you are in that room that watch the show. I guarantee you, you're gonna make yourself famous. Ask Joe Biden any of those questions or something else. I don't know. When were you married? How many kids do you have? What's your name? He's gonna fumble on all of it.
Doctor, when can we talk to the president's doctor, and how come they haven't been asked to come out here and talk with us, given the Her report that challenges the president's mental fitness?
So look, just to speak to the Her report really, really quickly.
We know what the Her's. Oh, you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer why that guy won't stand on the podium, will you? We all know. Folks, are doctors allowed to lie? Probably not. But will they lie to the American people? Joe Biden's coherent. He's all there. He can do the ABCs front and backwards. He does more in 1 hour than y'all do in a day.
Special counsel of Her is, as far as I remember, is obviously a Republican, a prosecutor. He's not a medical doctor. He's just not. It's not for him to speak to. It's just not. And
we're not all medical doctors. I'm not a doctor. Hell, you know what? Is there anybody in here that's a doctor? Maybe you can answer it. Maybe you can answer and let us know what you think about Joey and the way that this is functioning or isn't functioning. We've all seen people with dementia. And God forbid some of you actually have gone through that with a loved one. It's a terrible thing to happen to somebody. Now, we pick on Joe because it's elder abuse here, and he shouldn't be up there in the first place, but they keep chauffeuring this guy out on a gurney, and they want to continue to do this type of abuse to this man for another 4 years. Leave the guy alone. Put him in a rest home. get him the proper care that he needs. The White House isn't the rest home that he needs to be in. All right, it's a rest home right now. It's for the elderly. You got Jill Biden saying this nonsense. You got this lady here, the diversity hire, that maybe is the nanny. Maybe she's the one picking up after this guy. I'm not sure. But it's wild. Leave the guy alone. Let him go off in the sunset. Let him forget about what took place in his life and leave him. Just leave him be. Get somebody else up there. But this is the shenanigans they're going to do. This is what they're going to throw in front of us here and pretend like we're going to believe it. We all know why the doctor's not up there. We all know why she's dodging the question, because Joey's brain ain't working, but she'll tell us it is.
And you've heard from, over the past couple of days since the report has been out, you've heard from legal experts from across the ideological spectrum, even former Attorney General, and he says, and they have come out to say that the stuff in this report that is capturing all of your attention right now is just wrong. It's flatly wrong. It is inappropriate.
Look, well, one, it's not wrong. She's saying it's wrong to do and to say, but just because it's wrong to say and do something doesn't mean that he was incorrect in the very thing that he did, as well as the very thing that he said. I think what he said was right, and I think a lot of Americans, as this whole press conference was about practically, believes in. And so I think it's upwards like 83% of Americans now are like worried about this guy.
It is gratuitous. And so going to leave that there, and it is obviously up for a medical doctor to decide on that. But look, I have said the medical doctor, the president's doctor is going to do a physical. He's going to, and he has always put forth in the last 2 years a detailed memo on the president's obviously medical physical, and so I'm just going to leave.
Jesus, man, I'm telling you, Joe Biden is rubbing off on his staff. $180,000 and she can't get it out of her mouth. This isn't complicated, you guys. It's not like it's tough questions. Hey, can we get the doctor out there? We'll have to look at the doctor's schedule right now. The guy's kind of busy. He has a lot going on, but we'll see what we can do to try to get him on the podium here to answer your questions. There you go. That's it. Give me your money, Karine. Give me your money.
Leave it there. I don't have anything else to add. Go ahead, Jared.
Just curious to sort of follow up and get some clarity. If these transcripts were released, who makes that?
So they're going to talk about the transcripts. How do that transcripts actually get released? Nothing really happens in that scenario. In this part, though, I love this because here's a follow-up to basically that prior question that you're getting from, I believe, Ed, about, hey, can we see the physician, basically the president's doctor on all this, maybe speak to him, ask him a bunch of questions on what the hell's going on with this guy's cognitive ability. And when is the physical? Like, we're going to get more information on this physical. Now, the question isn't necessarily the physical. It's, is there going to be a mental competency test here going on? The physical doesn't really gauge that. We want to see if there's more tests. Cool, Joe, your balls hang lower than they should. Awesome. Physical passed. The question is, does your brain work? That's what the American people want to know. And boy, oh boy, does this reporter ask that very question.
MJ.
Hey, Karine, any updates on when the president's physical might be taking place?
So he will have a physical when we have information on that. So obviously, we will certainly share that with all of you. It will be transparent. There will be a comprehensive report, as we have done the last 2 years. Just don't have a timeline for you.
Plan on the press getting a heads up before the physical happens, or will we find out once it has taken place?
We're going to do it the way that we've done it the last 2 years. It's not going to be anything different. So the way that we've approached this the last 2 years will be the same way that we do this this third year.
Does the White House think that the idea of the president taking a cognition test, a cognitive test, as a part of this physical is a legitimate idea, particularly just on the heels of the special counsel report, more polling, as my colleague Selena just mentioned, showing that many American people have concerns about that?
Look, I got this question last week as well, and I'm just going to say what Dr. O'Connor, it's kind of what he said to me about a year ago when the report came out last year, obviously on his physical, which is the president proves every day how he operates, how he thinks, right? But by dealing with world leaders, by making really difficult decisions on behalf of the American people, whether it's domestic, whether it's national security. And so he shows it every day on how he thinks, how he operates. And so that is how the Dr. O'Connor sees it, and that's how I'm going to leave it.
What do you think about the idea of taking that kind of a test?
I mean, look, and I talked about this last week too on I believe on Friday. I have known this president since 2009. He is not just my boss, he's also a mentor to me. And I spent sometimes countless hours with him, whether it's in the Oval Office, whether it's on the road. And I believe, for me, you're asking me my personal opinion, he is sharp. He is on top of things. When we have meetings with him, with his staff, he's constantly pushing us, trying to get more information. And so that has been my experience with this president. Anything else outside of that, I just shared with you what Dr. O'Connor said to me, and so I'll just leave it there.
Oh God, you guys heard it. Oh, he's sharp. If you were to ask me, I'm known to tell the truth. You know what? Hey, any given day, right? Any given day, we'll be able to see how competent the president is. Okay, well, this was just yesterday. The president here. We're supposed to be able to visually see this, according to the doctor, right? A year ago. You just heard jean-pierre. This guy's sharp. He's all there. He's going to push you. He's going to ask you questions. He's going to make you a better person. Here's the president. You guys just I'm not even going to say anything about it. Just let me know if you notice anything weird.
Your Majesty, over to you.
This was yesterday.
Mr. President.
Folks, he doesn't know where to stand. He can't get himself off the stage correctly. You know, there was somebody in the back going, God, get over there. That way, man. That's it. That way. Like, any given day, you guys, this guy's sharp. Oh, I've been with him for hours. Oh, yeah, he pushes me. Yeah. It's amazing that she's going to say that, because we've gotten reports to where she can't get into a meeting with the guy, which pissed her off. And that's why John Kirby, who was actually just promoted to the assistant of the president, he gets all the time with him. That's why John Kirby's answers are a little bit better than jean-pierre's, and a little bit, I mean, not by much. I mean, how can you get a better answer when the guy here, the president of the United States, not a coherent gentleman running the country? And I use the word gentleman loosely. Well, there it is. There's the quote from the doctor, Dr. O'Connor. Somebody should start questioning that guy's ability to be doctor to the president. And so he shows it every day on how he thinks and how he operates, she continued. And that's how it is. Oh, that's how Dr. O'Connor sees it. And that's how I'm going to leave it. We saw it. We just saw the guy not, oh, I'm supposed to be here, then I'm supposed to be there, fumbling with this teleprompter, hitting a golf ball backwards, all that fun stuff. So it's the biggest cover-up, you guys. It is the biggest cover-up right now that we at least know about, that the White House is covering up for this guy. The Democrat Party, the DNC, is covering up for this guy. And it just shows you the place we're at in terms of the country, that this is all the Democrat Party has, is Joe Biden. I mean, hand to God, there is nobody else that you could put up that's better than Joe Biden, a deranged, senile old man that his brain isn't working. I don't mean to berate the guy, but his brain's not working. He's struggling. And this is what they put him out there, as you just heard jean-pierre say, they pick and choose when to show this guy. They pick and choose actual reporters that has their questions listed out for this man, pre-selected. All of it's fabricated. So this is what we're seeing day in and day out in front of the cameras. Can you imagine how bad it is behind the scenes? And a reporter actually asked that question, and she basically gave the same answer that we just heard of. Well, my experience with him is great. My experience with him is he's sharp. His stamina is through the roof. I challenge his stamina against anybody else out there. We just had the Super Bowl. Bring one of those guys and have them do a race, see who wins. Like, Joe Biden is so frail, you could punch through his body. It is wild stuff. Well, folks, I hope you appreciated this episode today. I tried to go as long as I could. My throat is giving out. We're out of throat coat. I'm out of tea, but thank you so much for joining. We got to get an episode out to you people, because you're patriots. We're a community that loves this country. We get along all together. If you want to become a member, it's right down there. If you want to go insane, super insane, not Biden insane, but charity insane, we do have a thank you tab down here. If you want to give $2, $100, $1,000, go crazy. Please don't feel like you have to. It's just there if you want to go above and beyond. Yeah, being here, part of our community, is what's the most important. And as long as you're having fun watching the show and entertained, that is what's important to me. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bo Brown Show.